I like the music.
Gotta get in the mood. Gotta get in the mood.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Message Talk Show, broadcasting all the way from London. I was about to say sunny London, but when I look out the window, I can see the rain coming down and we have thunderstorm warnings across the country. So it's not as sunny. So wherever you are tuning in from, whether you're tuning in from the Caribbean, Africa, America, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. You probably be in Australia. Welcome to the Message Talk Show. So where are you tuning in from? Where are you tuning in from? Just post in the message box where you're tuning from, where you're tuning in from today, and we will honor you. We will honor you when you post to the message box to say where you're tuning in from. So today, we're on the Message Talk Show. We believe that passionate, mission-centered individuals bring change and can bring change. So we help educators, we help coaches, we help speakers, we help content creators go from unknown, wait for it, go from unknown to unforgettable just by getting your message out. So if you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, or it's just an idea in your head at the moment, connect with us, work with us, craft your message and get your message out and get featured. We broadcast on Thursdays, 11 o'clock British Standard Time. Now, if you are unable to make the live broadcast, then within 1 hour, tune into the replay. So here's what I'm asking you to do for me now. The one thing, just press the share button. If you've got a friend or some friends you think that will benefit from the show today, press the share button. Tune in and press the share button to your page, to your group page, and to your personal profile, or press the subscribe button. Thank you. Welcome. Now, today we have an amazing guest in the house today. We have an amazing guest in the house today. And when I read the profile, I just said, I've got to read this profile. I normally edit down the profile sometimes because they're long. But this one, I couldn't edit it down. I just thought, I've got to read this one. So in the house today, let's just show we have a lady in the house today, a special guest. So today we're talking about how to improve the way we do education to add creative value. How to improve the way we do education to add creative value. And we've certainly seen it during the pandemic, how we deliver education services to the public. And the question we're asking, is it going to be permanent or is there more to happen? Is there more to change? But I have someone in the house today. Her name is Rijole, and she thinks this is just the beginning. So before she comes on to talk us, let me just read her profile. Rijole is a public speaker. She's an author. She's an event manager. She's a STEM ambassador and an educator. With over 10 years of experience working in inner city London schools. She was raised in Spain, where she trained as a specialist language teacher before coming to the UK. She is the founder of STEAM Power, a social enterprise that delivers STEM workshops and events to children from underrepresented communities. She believes that grades should not determine young people's career choices. Do you hear that? And we've seen that during this pandemic. She believes that grades should not determine young people's career choices. According to her, approaches to learning need to change so no child is left behind. I like that statement. No child is left behind. Additionally, she collaborates with other like-minded organizations, engaging the community with events that foster a love for STEM, and she'll tell us what that is, across the country. Her statement: the community needs to control the narrative when it comes to education. Negative stereotypes are sentencing many young people to a cycle of generational poverty, youth violence, and mental illness. She is also the founder of Extraordinary Parenting, a social platform that aims to empower parents from the African Caribbean community. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Rijole. Man, that was an amazing profile. I just had to read that today. There is no way I could not read that. No child left behind. Weak parents need to control the narrative. Rijole, man, tell us the story behind you, man. How'd you get here?
How did I get here?
Well, yeah, what's your story? Tell us the story, man. There must be a story to this. Yeah.
There's always a story, you know. The story is seeing many children in classrooms feeling undervalued, feeling, some of, in their own words, they would say stupid, feeling disengaged and unmotivated, because many of the activities or many of the curriculum itself doesn't cater to their needs, to the emotional needs, and also to the academical abilities as well. So in order to change that, and to improve to an extent the behavior in the classroom, I think children need to be engaged and motivated about what they learn and excited about what they learn. If they can see that what they learning has an application in the real world, in their reality, first of all, in the communities, I think we have a better chance at engaging the younger generation. Yes, yeah.
No, that's not a lie. That is very true. But there must have been a journey for you to get to that point, because what you're saying to me is exactly what's required and what's needed. We're looking at it. But what is your journey to get to that point when you came to that conclusion? What was it that brought you to that conclusion?
Excellent question. Well, what brought me to that conclusion is when I was doing a lot of supply teaching, and I would go from many schools, like from borough to borough. I would do supply teaching in Brixton. I would do supply teaching in Lambeth and in Southwark, in Croydon, in Lewisham, and I would see that when you look at the behaviors towards learning and also behavior in the class among certain Black populations from the community, it is pretty much the same, especially particularly among the boys, especially the behavior issues, the lack of engagement. And I thought to myself, there must be something that is common to all this, to this pattern of behavior. It's no coincidence that you see similar behaviors across different schools in different boroughs. So there's a common narrative that needs to be changed. That's how it started.
So what we're saying is that it's not just a feature of a particular set of people or a particular group of people. It's across the board with children, with young people.
Yes, it is across the board. Yeah.
In getting them engaged.
Yes, and especially talking to people outside, especially parents outside the school. You know, many parents feel disempowered when talking to the schools. You know, it tends
how do you mean being disempowered when they talk to the school? The school's supposed to help them.
Yes, it is, but you see, you'll be surprised how many parents don't feel confident when talking to the school, because maybe they don't speak English as the first. English is not the first language. Language is a major one. So you'll be surprised how many parents, even though they had probably more than one child going to the same school, they're not empowered to actually engage with the school. They feel that the school is not going to listen to them. But
the school must sense this. They must sense what's happening in the relationship if the parents aren't engaging. So what things do schools do to try and get parents to engage?
It's really difficult. I know that some schools might try to have translated apps in the website so the parents know what's happening. But the pandemic has been has made that obvious to everyone that not all parents are able to engage with the home learning facilities because they are not that literate in the first place, and also they might work and might not have the time to sit down and support the children at home. That's it's really sad. It's not the majority of parents that are able to engage with the learning.
But this has not
Yeah.
just been happening during the pandemic. This was
No,
happening long before the pandemic.
yes, long before, and it saddens me because you see certain communities, the ones that disengage the less, you look at the children are the ones whose children have the worst behavior in class or
Okay.
academic performance. And I think that there's something that needs to change. Maybe the communication, the language used, the approaches. It's a really difficult thing. It's a really difficult thing, and I don't think it's only to do with race, but also to do with socioeconomics. I find that your middle class tends to engage better with the schools. They get more involved. They raise funds for the school. If there's cake sale, you will see the
Well,
parents there raising money. If they need to do extra activities like going out and about, cinema, and even birthdays, the way they socialize. So it's
so there's a
there's
serious
so
class
much.
divide. There's a big
Pardon?
class divide there. There is a
Yeah, it
serious
is.
class divide.
Yes, serious class divide. Serious. Even when I look at the birthdays, your middle class parents only invite their middle class friends, and the working class friends or parents only invite the working class. So it's
So,
yeah, it's sad. It's sad to see that you wouldn't believe that in London that happens, but it does happen. It does happen.
but people form their own groups, don't they? They form their own
Yeah,
groups,
and that's
and
natural.
the kids come together in their own groups. But the kids don't know whether they're middle class or working class. The kids don't have no
They
definition of
don't
that in their
they don't
heads.
know, but the children are really clever because they know who their circle of friends are. You as a young person, you're able to tell, okay, this is my friend. I like this person, but you want to invite that person because you like this other person best. And that
Well,
is normal. And I don't blame the children for that, but I think the parents have the power to widen that circle. Right now, more than ever, we want parents to be very inclusive of the child's friendship, isn't it? Friends. We talk
yes,
about we talk about bringing down stereotypes. People need to start building up their circle of friends. That
but
that's
broadening,
that's important.
broadening your friend is totally by choice.
Say that again.
And if
Sorry, I
there's
got.
if there is a language if there's a language difference there, if there's a language challenge, then obviously you're not going to connect with the person who probably can't speak English very well. Am I correct?
That is true. That is true. That's absolutely true. But we,
So,
as educators, we try to include everyone. We do it all the time within the classroom. We do it through pair work, through group work, through different activities. Maybe in maths you have to work with this person. In English you have to work with this person. Maybe you have to work on your own. There's always periods of during the day where children have to work collaboratively with other children, regardless of how they feel about that other person.
when I was growing up as a child, many moons ago, we used to have something called Saturday school. And the Caribbean community, the African and Caribbean community, used to make sure that the kids went to Saturday school. And if no matter what happening in the week, Saturday school, there's going to be homework, there's going to be a drill on Saturday for the child to work on Saturday. There was no escape from this. Has that totally disappeared? Is that something that's available now? Saturday schools?
It's a really good point I'm making there. Saturday schools are brilliant, yeah, are brilliant, but they're not for everyone. Many parents in the community, especially in the Black community, they don't realize the role that these Saturday schools play in the first place. Saturday schools are anchor children into culture, into the community, into the language, into heritage, and that's a gap within the national curriculum. So if parents are complaining about, let's say, racism within the educational system, they need to approach organizations or community groups that are running Saturday schools, because Saturday schools are filling up that gap. However, many Saturday schools can be at times very alienating because they might not reflect the cultural background
Well,
or religious background of those parents. So parents might feel that, oh, this is not the place for me. So many people in the community, they feel more comfortable within under the umbrella of religious institutions rather than
Okay.
culture, because they see it as something a bit radical or militant. And I think we need to start changing that around a little bit.
But isn't there some sort of Saturday school within every community, within every borough across London?
Yes,
There are.
there is, but when I've seen Saturday schools for Polish children, for Thai children, for other type, for even for Greek children, Saturday schools are really important, and they are in every borough. But when you look at the population of Black community, is very scattered. So you might have a few Saturday schools. I know one in the borough of Croydon, and I know a few others in the borough of, actually one more in the borough of Lewisham, and I know there's another one in East London as well. There is an association called NAPS, National Association for Black Supplementary Schools, and that organization actually has all the information regarding Saturday schools, not only in London but also across the country. So if people are interested in finding out what's available in the area, I think they should try and contact NABS, NABSS, for more information regarding Saturday schools.
So Saturday supplementary schools is a start to find that leveling, or to find some sort of integration for young people, for young children who have difficulties in the mainstream school. Would you say that?
I wouldn't say that Saturday schools are the answer in terms of behavior issues, because children, regardless of their setting, they need to be able to manage their emotions, and I think that's a skill that is not the job or the work of Saturday school per se. I think within any educational setting, you want children to be able to manage their emotions, and
But when you say
that has to
manage
be,
emotions, what do you mean by that then? When you say manage, children got to manage their emotions, what do you mean by that?
when I say that, I mean manage the way they react to certain situations. Let me give you an example. Children might get upset when they have to do PE, when they have to get changed for PE. Some children get upset because they don't like the idea of getting undressed in front of other children. Other children within PE, they might not like the idea of having to work with certain people, and they start acting in a certain way. They might not collaborate because they don't like the sport that they have to deal with. Or in another subject, they might not understand something, and they believe that refusing to work is the answer. So those are behavior issues that stem from not being able to manage your own emotions.
Wow.
You don't seem sure. You don't seem 100% convinced. Talk to me.
No, it's not that 100. I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that, because what you mentioned there was kids not wanting to change in front of other children for PE, just changing the PE.
Yeah, for
Now,
PE, yes, that's very common
I
in year
hadn't even
five,
thought
in
of
year
that.
five, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah.
Wow. So there are issues all the way through that only the parents can kind of educate the children about how.
I think, education is not the job of the teacher or the school or the Saturday school. It's a community effort. It's not one man's job. I think it's all of us. All of us are responsible for the children, not just one person or one institution, because otherwise we enter into this silly game of blaming. And I'm not into blaming anyone. I think there's room for change and for collaboration. And I think parents need to understand that when things go pear-shaped, you cannot start blaming, because you need to look at yourself and ask, what is it that I'm doing to help the situation? How am I helping in my child's development, not only academically, but also as a person? Because one thing that I tend to discuss a lot with my colleagues is the fact that you have a lot of bright children within the system that are utterly rude. That could be A students, but they're utterly rude. So how come we are giving more importance to grades to that more than values and being polite? So that's another issue for me as well.
Well, my parents would call that manners, no respect or manners. Mm-hmm. That's what the character would say. They have no manners. They haven't been taught any manners. Why do we have children at school that are so rude and no respect for authority? What's causing that?
I think I don't like to use the word authority. I think it's more because when you look at that word, teachers represent authority, yes,
Okay.
parents and parents also, and adults as a whole. So when we look, if we go back, let's say to the early year setting, to the nursery, to the reception, we see that manners are everyday currency. When the children come to the door, good morning, how are
It
you? And
should
they're
be.
very polite.
Yeah,
And they're very
it
polite.
should
If you
be.
speak to if you speak to children, early years nursery, they're really, really polite. And that those good manners are being well, we as adults, we always role model that behavior. We never argue. At least I don't remember children arguing in the school in front of, well, adults arguing in front of children in a classroom. But we also say good morning, and from early years up to year six, the teacher will say good morning to the student. And I can tell you that some students, year four, year five, year six, you need to tell them three times before they actually acknowledge your presence. So something
Wow.
has gone wrong
Wow.
somewhere.
Three, 4 times before you
Yeah,
actually
yes,
acknowledge
and it's
your
true.
presence
Yeah, some children
in the
enter
room.
a room, they don't even say good morning. For others, it's natural. Good morning, miss. How are you? For others, it's just natural, second nature. For others, it's just like they already have
Wow.
that in them. So
Wow.
where does it come from? I don't think it comes from the school, because
Wow.
when you walk down the corridor, when I walk down the corridor, I greet my colleagues. The colleagues greet me. Good morning, miss. Good morning. How are you? So it's natural. So
So if that's happening in year 5 and 6,
yeah,
what
I don't.
happens?
Yeah, but it's not common. It's not. But I see something that it starts to creep in.
Yeah, you see the traits of it then.
Yeah, so by the time they enter secondary school and you hear other colleagues in secondary school education, they complain about children being so rude that causes them stress, and some of them give up teaching.
Wow. So teachers are on the receiving end of that.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So you know your concept that of no child left behind.
Well, it's not my concept. That's
Your statement. Your statement.
yeah, my
Your
statement.
statement.
Okay, all right.
Your mantra. Your
Yeah.
mantra.
Uh-huh.
No child left behind. So how do you propose to deal with all these issues and being able to bring a classroom of 30 kids consistently through so no child get left behind? What is
Personally, I feel that a class of 30 is not ideal.
it's too
How
big?
can it's a nice idea to be able to give equal treatment and equal level of attention to 30 children. Some children need more attention than others. So being given equal attention is just literally not possible, because the need of one child are not the same like as the child sitting next to. So that idea of having 30 is not good. When you look at private schools, they have less amount of children in the classroom and they perform better because the time teacher can give more time and more attention to particular
Well,
children.
private schools have more resources
Yeah,
available to them.
yeah, they have
So,
more resources. And then within a class of 30, you also, even though we have teaching assistant, that by the way, the teaching assistant role is disappearing. Now you have you have one adult for 30 children, because there's no manpower to support the need of the children. You have right now, you have in a class about 5 to 10 children that are SEN. So you
what's
tell
that
me
saying?
SEN, special needs. Yeah, they have a special needs. So you're going to tell me how in a class of 30, having 15 that are special needs, you're going to give equal level of attention to every single child. Some children are able to work independently. Others might need a little bit of support, and others need constant support. So
Okay.
ideally, you should be able to differentiate, and that's what schools do and advocate. They advocate for lesson plans that are differentiated. Questioning the questions has to be differentiated, and even the task has to be differentiated. But even when you give differentiated tasks, some children cannot access that task. So that means that you need an adult to be able to
Oh,
support that child. Otherwise, that child won't be able to access the curriculum. Can you believe that in year five and in year six, You have children that are going into secondary school not being able how to read
Wow.
or to
Not being
write.
able to read or to
Yes,
write.
yeah, not able to read or to write. And they've been in school since nursery.
Wow. Before you tell us about STEAM, let's go to the sponsor. But before I do that, if you're joining us for the first time, we're talking about how to improve the way we do education to add creative value. And we have a special guest in house who's an educator. Rijole believes that there is more we can do. There is more we should be doing in the system. It's not just the job of the teacher, it's the job of the whole community and the parents to help the kids come through. So let's have a word from the sponsor before she tells us about STEAM.
You are listening to the Message Talk Show and Podcast. Do you believe you have something to share? Do you believe you have something to contribute? Do you have a story to tell the world, to share with your community? Gandhi said, man often becomes what he believes himself to be. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So join us on the Message Talk Show and Podcast with host Alex Gordon.
How to improve the way we do education to add creative value. Why do you think that adding creative value will make a difference in the classroom?
I think creativity, when I think of creativity, I think of art, I think of expression. And I think a way of helping children thrive is to allow them to express themselves. When you look at a class in a classroom setting, it's really difficult to tailor every single subject to that creative, let's say, flair. So when we look at creativity, people tend to think that it's only art, but you have other aspects. Children can be creative by moving around the classroom, by working in teams, by even working outside of the classroom as well. Some schools are lucky enough to have gardens, so they go out in the garden. They might be lucky enough to go into the field, and then the teachers in those schools are able to give education and the lessons in general a different dimension. Some children or some schools might be able to go on outings on a regular basics, because they realize that many children don't go out on the weekend. They only stay in the neighborhood. So understanding not only the local neighborhood, but what happens in London and what's available for them is really, really important. And what I want to stress is the importance of working with your hands. Hands-on learning.
Why your hands? Why your hands? What's so special about your hands?
Working with your hands is, I think, is very linked to apprenticeship and very linked to practical skills that can help children thrive. What do you think is more important? Learning how to read or write, which is really important, or also knowing how to do your shoelaces? You probably are thinking, where am I going to do with this? Can you believe that I've met children in year 5, that don't know how to do the shoelaces?
No. Don't tell me that. What do you mean they don't know how to do?
I'm not
That's
kidding.
a basic
Children
home method.
that struggle to pick up the scissors, to cut with the scissors. Yes. Some children get really stressed out with scissors. So hands-on are really important. When you look at apprenticeship, which is something that the government is pushing right now, I think is paramount if we want to see children, succeeding, because young people need to realize that besides the grades, you have skills, you have speaking skills, you have children that are going into becoming YouTubers, becoming motivational speakers.
Yes.
And probably when you look at their grades, they're not doing that great in terms of academic performance, but they have a talent. And I think when you are working with your hands, you can see a different type of talent coming through. I can remember this young girl in my class.
Faster. You recognize
Yes,
the talent.
I recognize children that are not so good academically. The minute that you need to start doing a sewing project, like happened to me a few months ago, this young girl, really weak in certain areas, across the board, I gave her a needle, my word, she created this lovely purse. And then this other girl, SEN, she's really creative. She's running her own hair bow business.
Wow.
So if we ignore those, we are
academically she doesn't perform at all.
No. Academically, some children are doing really, really bad.
Wow.
But when you look at those skills, they are thriving. But when you
Okay.
look at the way it's being, that the educational system kind of grades, that grade is minimal. It's like 1%. Or you can only write it as a comment, but you cannot write it as a, oh, outstanding. It's not in
Wow.
the same level as English and maths. You understand what I'm trying to tell you?
So tell us about STEAM. Tell us about STEAM.
Well, STEAM, for those that don't know, stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. That's what it stands for. I think a few years ago there was an emphasis on STEM, which leaves the art out. But I believe that art is really important. It's the way we
Right.
express ourselves, the way we talk. It's fashion. Yeah, it's poetry.
So
It's color.
so how does STEAM get represented in the schools, or how do you think STEAM will help the children, the young people?
How? Okay. First of all, when the STEAM that I do advocates for a more hands-on approach, so we do the STEM events, and what we do is teach skills that the children would not normally learn in school. For
So
instance,
what does a STEM event consist of then?
the latest event that we have done, it was a CSI event, crime scene investigation. So the children were taught forensic skills. Yeah, so we had
Okay.
a forensic event for children. The first event that we did, it was a few years ago, and we had the London Metropolitan Police. We had the private investigator who actually showed the children what her job entailed. So she would go into a crime scene and she would prepare certain equipment to be able to find out footprints of the criminal,
Wow.
fingerprints, and also explain why her job is important and how we as a community can help as well. We also had the London Ambulance Service who spoke about the dangers of knife crime. And it was a very young audience, so they were really really good in explaining to children that knives kill. And surprisingly, there were many children in the audience who thought that if you got stabbed, nothing would happen to you. They thought that actually the question was, what part in the body can get stabbed and not die? Children actually thought that the shoulder, the leg, and they didn't realize that probably the less dangerous place where you can get stabbed probably is the little finger on your toe, and that's
So,
not going to
so,
happen.
so in their heads, they think they've got safe spots in their body that they can get stabbed.
Yes, but they were very young audience. They were teens, they were early teens, and very young children. So if you can imagine that they think that, so they went home knowing that you are not safe if someone stabs you.
Ah,
Yeah,
ah.
so that was a
That,
really really
that is
that was
serious.
an eye opener as well.
So
And yeah,
we've
go
got
ahead.
some comments coming through here. Let me just see
Yeah, go
what
ahead.
comments people are giving us here right now. So, oh yeah, please share this. Please share this conversation with your friends. People are saying, please share this conversation with your friends because it's so important. You know, what you were saying just now really startled me to think that young children actually believe a knife could go into their body and hurt them and think it's safe to do that.
Yeah, still
That is what.
you would
That is
survive.
what.
Yeah, but yeah, I was yeah. So that was all the adults in the room that day. We were like, we froze. Like, what? Do you really think that you can get stuck and not die?
Wow.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be entertained at all. There should be
yeah.
no idea of being stabbed or being justified in any shape or form. So your STEM workshops happen around London, Birmingham, Manchester, or is it just
I
London
wish,
based?
I wish. At the moment, it's just London. We have done CSI Croydon. That was the first one, and we did it in collaboration with Abundance Croydon as part of the Learning Unified Learning. Then we had CSI Peckham. Actually, before that, we had CSI Abbeywood. Then we had CSI Peckham, and then the last one happened before the lockdown, and that was CSI Haringey.
So CSI, which is the crime scene investigation,
Yes.
happens in collaboration with the police.
It happened in collaboration with the police on the first year. After
Okay.
that, it has been really, really difficult to get anyone from the London Metropolitan Police to get involved with this. And I think it's really important that the children understand what the job is, so they can see themselves being a private investigator in their own community. You see how many crimes go unresolved, and we rely on the people that we complain most about. Do you understand this?
So we should be asking the police associations to get involved with the CSI program that you guys are trying to run across London and then across
Yes,
the country.
yes.
So what would be the ideal for you then? If STEM's operating, what would be the ideal in terms of pushing STEM out? What would you want to see
I
to make
want
that
to
happen?
see the outcome for me is seeing children that choose probably working for the police or working as a private investigator. But don't forget that forensics is a science in itself. It's science, it's
Yeah.
forensic science. So within that forensic field, you had many, many aspects. You have forensic, forensic, the blood, looking at the blood, forensic archaeology, looking at the bones, remains of bones, forensic, finance, looking at fraud, digital forensic, looking at the criminal activity of someone online. So there are many aspects of forensics. It's not just going out and start dusting off fingerprints. So it's science in itself. So anyone interested in science could look at forensics as a way of,
Wow.
look, I could go into that. But going back to the question as to how can it help children? If I've had a child and my child attended to a CSI event, I would like my child to be able to learn how to do CPR, how to be able to do a basic bandage. Let's say you have a friend has been stabbed, unfortunately, you are able right there and then to be able to apply to do first aid to your friend.
Yeah.
Look what
I was just
happened
about, I was just about to ask you that.
go
Doesn't
ahead.
first aid get taught in schools at all? First aid?
No, you might
No.
have. When the funding was available, there were how do you call it? I can't remember the name of this program. It was a wonderful program where they help young mothers with their babies. So I think it was early Sure Start or early years start, where
Okay.
the community center would be open to mothers. They would bring the babies, they will sing together, and also they will look at CPR and teach parents what to do with the baby in the case of an emergency. That's no longer available.
Wow.
But I think we can bring that, and it's very needed.
So there
Imagine,
were some good programs that were making impact on the community then.
yes,
On
but
the
because of
people.
funding, that has stopped, and I think it's a real shame, because you might have parents that might have to run to A&E because they cannot do a basic CPR to their babies. And if you remember the sad event, Stephen Lawrence, how he died, I think it was
Yes.
Dwayne, his friend, that said the first thing that shocked him when the police arrived to the crime scene was the fact that they stood there and let him die. They never applied any first aid to him. They that's that. I remember
They-
that. Can
they
you
went
imagine
beyond
if any young
this,
person that has watched a friend die on the street, knowing how to do CPR, could be there, could have saved their friend's life? Do you see how powerful this could this be?
Mm.
If you, as a young person, knowing that you are already within that group that is in danger of getting involved in crime or being a victim of crime, if you already have the skill, you have better chances of surviving. Not wishing that to anyone, but can we be more? Can we prevent more rather than react? Because there's a
Prevention.
tendency of react to everything that happens, and we need to prevent. If we are in the shadows, or actually at the front, I should say, making clear to parents that you can teach these skills to children. They don't have to wait until they are 18 or until something awful happens. How much grief will be saving in our communities?
So you're talking about some form of basic first aid being taught to young people. Full
Yes,
stop.
yeah, it has to be. And I have spoken to a doctor, and that actually doctor, I can't remember her name. I can't remember her name, but she works for the London Ambulance Service, and she told me that she will be 100% for it, because we have young people dying and getting stabbed.
Wow. It's important. It's important.
It is
Wow.
important.
It's important. No child left behind. Now I'm beginning to see what you mean about no child left behind. We can't afford for a generation to lose their life, to be impaired in any way, shape, or form, not to get a good education, not to be skilled to come out to the marketplace. Because when they come to the job market, it's a different kettle of fish. Being unprepared. That's so STEM is a starting point in our community.
Yeah, it's a starting point. It's a starting point. There has to be a starting point. But I think many parents, especially those that are really successful, I can think of a few, they're already teaching the children how to be independent. They are building businesses together. They're building wealth together. So the children know that you don't need to rely on the outside, on the outer community, where you might face discrimination, because within your community, no one bothered to create a legacy for you. And
so some parents are able to do it. Some parents are doing it. Some parents have the skill to do it.
I agree with you 100%. We have a lot of literature, books out there that can teach people how to do it. And you have professionals in the community that are actually teaching financial literacy. I can think of a few from the top of my head. I can think of Paula Perry, I can think of Charmaine Simpson, and I can think of other people that are actually trying to make a difference in their communities. Yeah.
Do you have a website?
Yes, I do have a website, but I think you'd be better off following me on Facebook and on Instagram at Steam Power. Let me show you. Steam Power at Steam Power Ltd. At Steam Power Ltd.
Steam Power Ltd.
Yes, and then you can follow me on LinkedIn as well.
So you're the Steam Power STEM ambassador. Let me get that in my head. Yeah. So
anyone can be an ambassador, by the way, because you just want to foster a culture of learning, also a culture of asking questions. We want children, young people, to ask questions, to be inquisitive, and to be more involved in the community. You have very young people doing amazing things. Look at this young footballer. Himself, his campaign.
That touched me when I saw the TV.
Yeah, that is amazing. He remembered how it's like to be hungry.
Yes, he remembered, and that was important. Although he's become a great success himself, he remembered what it was like.
That's right.
And that's half the challenge. When people achieve success in their own life and they remember where they're coming from and reach back to campaign to bring change to their community, that is amazing. And I was touched by that. I was really touched by that.
I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah.
So let me just show you. Okay, so Steam Power on Facebook, Steam Power Limited, Ltd, yeah?
Yes.
Steam Power,
and on Instagram as well. And Instagram as well as Steam Power Ltd. Yes. I have said that on my my Facebook page, you don't need to say Ltd. It's just Steam Power, but it's all right.
Steam Power on Facebook.
Yes.
Connect with Rijole, connect with Steam Power, become an ambassador. She's looking for ambassadors across the country. She's looking for ambassadors in London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, across the whole of the UK. You want to raise up people to run STEM across the country. STEM workshops.
Yes, STEM workshops, forensic workshops. Get the children into the science. And also I'm in collaboration. And also I'm in talks, sorry to cut you. I'm in talks with Ricardo Johnson, not just for football, because he wants to bring cycling into the GCSE curriculum. He was talking about how footballers, many young people, are actually kind of funneled into the world of football, thinking that they are going to become the next superstar. But that's not the truth for everyone. What happens next? What happens next?
They see that all the time.
That's right. That's right. So what happens next? Yeah, there's a big assumption. What happens next? And even when you become a superstar, who is going to be the next manager?
Yes.
That's another territory where many young people, after becoming stars and earning millions for the football teams, are not welcome.
You still need a backup plan.
Of course, you need a backup plan.
You still need education, a backup plan. So even if you become a football star, even if you're on your way to becoming a football sensation, you should still receive the level of education that's required.
Yeah, and there's science there as well. Those people that are working in the locker rooms, helping the footballers to recover after the football match or the training, they are sports scientists. So you have science everywhere. Science
everywhere.
everywhere.
So we've got
So
to educate our young people with that.
yeah, we do.
So if there was one thing you'd like to tell the audience, people in London, across the world, especially the inner cities, because this is the challenge that we face are a lot they are polarized in our inner cities. What would that message be?
I think one of the things that I would like to leave you with is that do not allow anyone to create your own future or create that narrative for you. You need to create that narrative for yourself.
Let me write this down.
Sorry.
Do not allow anyone to create your own narrative for you. Do
Yes.
not allow anyone to create your own narrative. You must control your narrative. That is
Yes.
powerful.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. It's really easy as a young person to be easily led or influenced by even your parents, your friends, the media. But I think there has to be a time where you have that internal dialogue and you say to yourself, "This is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. This is who I want. Who am I?
Wow.
Who I am." Yeah.
You've got to get to that point.
Sorry, say that again.
You've got to get to that point as a young person to start creating your own identity.
Yes.
And be in charge of that creation process.
Yeah.
That being and that becoming.
Yes.
Wow. Rijole, it's been an amazing time talking to you today, and I can I can feel the passion, I can sense the power which you want to bring changes to our education system, by which you want to support parents, by which you want to support everyone just to create a better future for our young people. That is all it is.
Yes, and we all want that, don't we? We all want that, and our system, our educational system, has to answer to the needs of our community. One thing that probably we don't have time to talk about is that I see how many people back home they actually bow to European standards of education, not knowing that the education that is being provided in this country answers the needs of this country. So you cannot bring that over there because what you've been taught or what you've learned might not be applicable to the needs of your country or the people back home. So we need to start adapting and adapt our own curriculum to the needs of our community. That's really important.
So controlling your own narrative is not just for the young people. It's for the countries. It's for the governments.
Yeah,
the ambassadors of these great countries. They need to control their own narrative, create things that are relevant to their own community for the development of their own people. When are you stepping into politics?
Funny that you say that. Oh, who knows?
When are you stepping into politics? Because you certainly have a passion for something, for driving change. And if there's ever a time that we need that driving force to push through change, it's in all levels. It's in all levels, yes.
That's
from STEM to the teachers, to the school, to the parents, but to the politicians as well. And I think sometimes I think what's happened, we've become comfortable with our own lifestyles. So once we're comfortable, we operate within our own zones. Mm-hmm. And so we lack awareness of what's happening in our community, in the heart of our community, until the TVs show it to us, until the reporters show us something, and suddenly it creates an uproar.
Yeah, it's like we have the wake-up call.
Yeah, we have the wake-up call.
But
the thermostat, the thermometer, we're not measuring what's happening in our local communities to prevent things. Because you said earlier about being more preventative than reactionary. Mm-hmm. Teaching kids to grow with respect and manners. Helping young people to collaborate with each other. Helping young people to manage their emotions. And that's not just young people as well, that's adults.
Me included. It's not easy.
Manage their emotions. And bringing that whole sense of respect and manners as a way of living and of life from an early age so that we grow responsible citizens. Rijole, it's been an amazing time with you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Alex. It's been great.
And, you know, I think you should drive a campaign across the country with STEM, the STEM workshops. You know, you should campaign about it. And I will do what I can do. I will connect you with some people to talk about STEM. And it needs a platform, and you need some ambassadors. And I'm sure there's other parents out there that once you show them what to do, once you train them, you know, like train the trainer type workshops.
Yes.
They will come on board to say, okay, how can we make STEM happen? How can we drive CSI across the country so bring another level of education to our young people? That's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the Message Talk Show. It's been an amazing time talking to Rijole from STEAM, from the STEM workshops across the country that she wants to do, that she wants to push out, and she needs your help. She needs your help more than ever. She needs every person's help who wants to see change in our community, change from a young age to adult age. Let's just go to the sponsor before the show finishes.
You are listening to the Message Talk Show and Podcast. Do you believe you have something to share? Do you believe you have something to contribute? Do you have a story to tell the world, to share with your community? Gandhi said, man often becomes what he believes himself to be. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So join us on the Message Talk Show and Podcast with host Alex Gordon.
The Message Talk Show broadcasts once a week on a Thursday, 11 o'clock. And we help passionate individuals get their message out. We help small business owners, entrepreneurs go from unnoticed to being known. So if that's you, connect with us, make contact with us, and get your message out. It's time for a change. And the change is going to come through entrepreneurship. People like Joel run STEM workshops across the country, passionate about what they do, but need your help. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Thank you for sharing the program. Thank you for expressing. And check out the replay and check out the watch party. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
The Message Talk Show is back.